Welcome once again to Beyond Musical Sounds, and as we near the end of this season, today we have a very important subject about music and demon possession. Over and over again in this program, we've alluded to the story of Saul and David, that there was a time when Saul was disturbed by an evil spirit, and David would be called to play the harp so that the evil spirit would disappear. Is it possible that music can cause demons to disappear, and that music as well can be used to cause demon possession? What do you think?
Or to invite demons. Today, by the way, there's an increase in inquiry. People are more interested, and you see an upsurge of devil worship in plain terms. We hear of the Illuminati. We hear of Freemasonry. We see spiritualism is on the uprise. New Ageism, astrology, magic, black or blue, red, yellow magic. Devil worship seems to pervade this society. Could it be that music is the agency through which the devil gets into the society?
There is a story you love narrating of your high school experience and where you first met the subject of music and demons.
Well, this story, I'm going to put it briefly. As I was in high school, one of my schoolmates was actually discovered, that was the word then, to be a devil worshipper. And the school used to be a bit tense during those days. Cats used to cry. It was a funny scenario. That was my first experience with them. And you know, well, it was around some disciplinary case, and then later the boy came back that he was delivered from devil worship. But we were so curious, like everybody else wanted to know. So we stood around him, and he was explaining to us how he would go under the sea, how he would speak with big people in high places and go abroad, and he would be given a lot of money. And when he saw me, he turned to my direction and he said something that I still remember. He said, "Kwanza wewe," you know, that means first of all you. He noticed my face. I was the first one and the last one from the dance hall. If you remember from the last episode, I told you I was addicted to music. He told me that when you guys were dancing in the dance hall, our girls would come and join you. You know, that thing really struck my attention for a long time, and I wondered, who are your girls? I asked him. He actually said when he was in the devil worship side, while we were dancing, this is a normal high school dance, entertainment, the demons would come and join us.
All right, interesting subject. You know, some people pray that God's presence will inhabit their praise. The question is, whose presence inhabits your praise? Is it the presence of God and his holy angels, or is it the presence of the devil and his evil angels? Some people may need to hear again the story of drums and their origins. In the last episode, we learned that drums started from Mesopotamia, traveled all the way to Egypt and went to West Africa, and from West Africa back to the Americas, and today it's all over the world. What do you need to share with us about
Let's speak it from West Africa. During the slave trade, they picked slaves from West Africa and they went with them to America. And then in the early 1900s, Alexander Graham invented the gramophone, where now they started recording music. And these guys who carried the drums carried their religion. What was their religion? We saw last time that religion was called the religion of voodoo worship. They were actually worshiping the devil. And so when they would bring this to the church, the priest would refuse and say, no, we don't use that in the church. Because people today say, oh, but we're just African. Drums is not African, as we have said. Number two, when the priest refused them from using music in their worship styles, in their worship services, they said, oh, no, we are now worshiping your God, but we're just using our drums. And that's how voodoo worship now came into church, and drums started being used into church. We also said categorically that this drum was a centerpiece instrument in the worship of this God, who is actually a demon. In fact, a book called Inside Rock Music says that the same exact rhythms are used in the three religions, in the African religion, the Indian music, and rock music. So drums is not just an African thing. And in the music used by faith healers, the god or the demon comes whenever he is called using his rhythms. In fact, these goddesses were dominant part of their religion. this religion of Samaria. And if you look at their earliest representation, are female people, ladies, playing hand drums, and the frame drum was actually the center of this ritual.
The question is, that was, previously, does that God still come to celebration type of worship, or when the rhythms are used in current style of music?
The writers have strongly agreed. There's a strong consensus that even if you don't know it, whether you are using the drums in church, as long as you're using the rhythm of those gods, they actually come. I went to a congregation around here in this city. I wouldn't mention the name, but I told them the kind of rhythms you play are not church rhythms. People say, oh, I'm just singing gospel, reggae, and all those things. Reggae is reggae, gospel is gospel. So they brought those things into the church. And I told them, this music is bad. They refused. At the end of the service, a young child was thrown down in convulsion and was, being demon possessed. So true, drums
the
are
convulsions
not
were not out of a convulsive disorder.
No, actually, when we looked at it, it was not convulsive disorder. We started now exercising demons for the rest of 1 hour. So at the end of the day, I told them, the kind of music you play here, and the devils know them. And I speak like this with knowledge from both sides. Now I'm a Christian. I have been out there in the world. There's some music I hear in our church which I know definitely is not church sound.
So how did drums get into pop music from the voodoo worshippers? Right after the break, he'll be able to answer this question. Please join us.
Sasa Bwana niponye, sikia kulia kwangu, sikia maombi yangu, niponye. Sasa Bwana niponye, unisikie Yesu wangu, na unijibu Yesu wangu, unisikie Yesu wangu, na unijibu Yesu wangu, nakuomba Bwana niponye, sasa Bwana naomba Yesu niponye, sasa Bwana niponye, nakuomba Bwana niponye, sasa Bwana ninaomba Yesu nisikie Bwana, sasa Bwana niponye, sikia kulia kwangu, tazama machozi yangu, nifute sasa Bwana nifute Bwana, sikia kulia kwangu, tazama machozi yangu, nifute sasa Bwana nifute, unisikie Yesu wangu, na unijibu Yesu wangu, unisikie Yesu wangu, na unijibu Yesu wangu, mateso, nami siwezi kuinuka peke yangu. Nimezama kwenye dimbwi la mateso, nami siwezi kuinuka peke yangu. Sikia Bwana, sikia Bwana, nimezama kwenye dimbwi la mateso, nami siwezi kuinuka peke yangu. Nimezama kwenye dimbwi la mateso, nami siwezi kuinuka peke yangu. Sikia Bwana, sikia Bwana, sikia Bwana.
Welcome back to Beyond Musical Sounds, and today we are discussing music and demon possession. Just before the break, we asked the question, how did drums move from voodoo worship into the pop style of music and maybe into church?
Last in our episode 9, when we were doing music and stress, we introduced this gentleman called Aleister Crowley. And you can Google, born to a pastor in 1875. This guy was a bad guy. He actually is books written about him call him the 666, the illustrated beast, you know, the evil beast. He was so evil, and he did everything that he believed God would not like. You know, he practiced magic, he practiced, satanism, he invented drugs, and he was studying spiritualism and things like this. And Aleister Crowley said of himself that I was not just content to become to believe in Satan. I wanted to be his chief of staff. This Aleister Crowley guy was known to be the wickedest man on earth. He said in his book, the Law of the Thelema, where he wrote about do what thou wilt and things like that. He was rebellious against every kind of authority. He said that you can become a genius in music by practicing Satanism. And Aleister Crowley has shaped the music of today. He has shaped the media of today. His writing, he said he would use music and an army of youth to bring about new age movement. He also had a secret room where he would practice magic. In 1912, he adopted a name called Baphomet. And Baphomet is today symbolized with, two hands with a goat's head. And these things are being introduced to our children early in movies and things like that. Like this Baphomet is actually the god Pan, the god of music. You can now try and feel where Aleister Crowley was coming from. The god of romance and music is called the god Pan. And if you look at some of the representations of Baphomet or God Pan, you'll find is like a goat of Mendes with a pan flute. He's playing pan flute. And this is being introduced early to our children. Those who watch Peter Pan, you now know that your children have learned so much about do what thou wilt. The parent says do this, but the movie brings out a concept where it's telling the children rebel against authority. Don't follow your parents. Don't follow government and things like that. So Aleister Crowley was the man behind bringing this music into bringing drums, which was meant for devil worship, into the pop music and rock music of our day.
Ah, all right. So Aleister Crowley, does he have any influence in the type of music we have today And, you know, does he have followers unknowingly or knowingly?
Well, the known ones, let me start with the known ones. He's the modern prophet of occult movement. He's invented signs and symbols which are being used in CDs and lyrics of present-day musicians. His writings is consulted in their art, in their cloth design. For example, the Beatles, in their album that sold the most, it's called Sgt. Pepper, Aleister Crowley's head or image was actually there as a sign that they were actually following him. If you look at some of the lyrics that people today put out there, one of his followers include the Rolling Stones. They wrote a song that I would want to read in part. Maybe I'm going to display this on the screen as well. The lyrics go like this. Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long year, stole many a man's soul and faith. I was around when Christ had his moment of doubt and pain, made damn sure that Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name. And when they did a review of this music, the Rolling Stone, and the album name is called Sympathy for the Devil. Friends, do you think the devil needs sympathy? When they did a review of this music, at the last end, they actually introduced the guy. They said, pleased to meet you, I am the devil. Could you see that Aleister Crowley's belief and following of the devil is shaping these musicians? That was the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. You can find their music. Some of their album has the, art like Black Sabbath, And Michael Jackson, known as the king of pop of today, he said in the Newsweek magazine that when he hits the stage, the words he is saying, the actions he is performing are not from him. He loses control and a spirit comes to him. The question is, where did Michael Jackson get all his music, all his art, and all his fame? We ask him. He says, I wake up from a dream and I go, wow, put this down on paper. The whole thing is strange. You hear the words, everything is right there in front of your face. And you say, I'm sorry, I just didn't write it. It's already there. He confesses that the words of his music are not his own. It was written for him. Not only that, let me show you the other part where he says he had a secret room where with a moving wall and mirrors. That's where he talks to a guy called Lee or Liberace. They have a way in which they say, this is now not me, that's somebody else on the stage. It's a different persona. His voice I hear. The question is, Michael Jackson, where did you get the idea of having moving walls and room in your room? Aleister Crowley had a secret room with mirrors where he practiced black magic. If you look at even the album cover of Michael Jackson, you can see Satanism around it. So we can tell by sampling certain musicians that they are following Aleister Crowley and they have been taught by Aleister Crowley.
Well, those are very harsh accusations, I would say. You said that his writing and his lyrics of the music were inspired by those who worship the devil. How exactly do you know that? How would you prove that?
Well, let's sample a few of them. I'll show you on the screen one of Michael Jackson's, the best-selling album. You can see the way it looks like. It has a lot of Satanism symbols in it. A small child carrying a skull and things like that. In fact, in one of our modern-day musicians, Jay-Z, there is one day that the magazine put them together, Aleister Crowley and Jay-Z, and they said the dynamic duo. It seems that the world, the people know where actually these guys get their power, where they get their symbolism from. Aleister Crowley had a crown, and if you study that crown, you'll find certain symbols that are found in almost every succeeding musician's album. For example, one of them is used even in our microphones. It's called the pentagram. Well, I'll not talk about that. The most important one, I'll read for you what they say. The most important one is the eye of clairvoyance, or, the all-seeing eye. This thing where people nowadays, they even paint their eyes and things like that. That is a highly Masonic symbol that Aleister Crowley introduced into music. His idea was, pick a musician, he has talent, and then induct him into devil worship, let him sell his soul to the devil, and when he comes back, he is a disciple, he is a high priest, whether it's the right eye or the left eye. And I'm going to play this on your screen. I want to show you almost every musician that people follow. On their most selling CD album, they have that symbol of the eye of clairvoyance. How comes all the musicians have that eye? Could it be it's a secret code for them? And you follow the history of these musicians, you find that they kind of struggle with demon worship at some point. If they want to leave, they are killed or something like that. I think I'll continue with this, with the rolling of this slide right after the break.
All right, join us after the break.
Brightly beams our Father's mercy from His lighthouse evermore. But to us He gives the keeping of the lights along the shore. Let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the wave. Some poor fainting, struggling seamen, you may rescue, you may serve. Dark the night of sin has settled, loud the angry billows roll. Eager eyes are watching, longing for the lights along the shore. So let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the wave. Some poor fainting, struggling seamen, you may rescue, you may serve. Trim your feeble lamp, my brother. Some poor sailor tempest tossed, trying now to make the harbor, in the darkness may be lost. Let the lower lights be burning, send a gleam across the way. Some poor fainting, struggling seamen, you may rescue, you may serve. You may rescue, you may serve.
Welcome back. Today on Beyond Musical Sounds, we have been discussing music and demon possession. Just before the break, we were going through images of certain album art and certain musicians and why they all have to have this type of patterns on their album art. And as displayed on your screen, you want to see some of this album art. Do you want to take us through them?
Well, I showed you that the most venerated or the highest occult symbolism is the Eye of Horus. And the question is, why do they all pick this symbolism, all of them? And you see, they move from dust or a musician who was not known, and soon you realize they are top-notch world musicians, very rich. And we remember what Aleister Crowley said, you can actually become a genius by practicing magic in music. And so these guys, they sell their souls to the devil. We don't have time to show you all that. Marilyn Manson tells you why they do it. She actually says, I don't know if anyone has really understood what we are trying.
Is she or he?
Well, I don't even know if it's a he or a she, because they keep changing gender. Some of the issues they bring here is drugs, matters of homosexuality, and it's a bad world, friends. You need to be watchful on what music your children listen to and the music you listen to yourself. This is what he says. I think it's a him. I don't know if anyone has understood what we are trying to do. To lure them in, once we've got them, we can give them our message. And in 1996, he reiterated that hopefully I'll be remembered as the person who brought an end to Christianity. And then he gives an advice. If somebody kills themselves because of our music, then that's one less stupid person in the world. Then he has an advice for parents. Raise your kids better, or I'll be raising them for you. Well, today, friends, we live in a momentous time. It's a difficult world, pervaded with devil worship and every other thing. It's not just, just music. We would like to advise that you check the music that you listen to at home. It could be that it's leading to some of these things.
Right, and as you see this thing, we can indeed conclude that evil is on the increase in the world. But as you look around, God has not left us clueless concerning his love for us, concerning his will for our lives. God would have us to prepare for his coming, because indeed as people are increasing in evil, God would want us to be sanctified and sealed for his kingdom. We do invite you to join us for our next session episode as we conclude this very interesting season, and enjoy this song that says, "Lift up your head, for redemption draweth nigh."
Years of time have come and gone since I first heard it told that Jesus would come again someday. If back then it seemed so real, then I just can't help but feel how much closer his coming is today. Signs of the times are everywhere, and there's a brand new feeling in the air. Keep your eyes upon the eastern sky. Lift up your head, redemption draweth nigh. Wars and strife on every hand, and violence fills the land. Still some people doubt he'll come again.
But the word of God is true. He'll redeem his chosen few. Don't lose hope. Soon Christ Jesus will descend.
Signs of the times are